Good evening, everybody, and welcome to F.O.D. Shorts. This is our midweek review, and it's kind of a podcast based off of our FM radio show, which is heard on 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk in Connecticut, Long Island, and Rhode Island. And this is a podcast where we basically get to say whatever we want, how we want. And I'm here with Mr. C.V. Berton. I'm Chet Martin. C.V., how you doing, man?
Hey, I'm just hanging out, and I hear there's some crazy stories in the news today. Can you bring me up to date?
Well, yeah, but I wanted to ask you this before we get into the news and reviews and all that. Okay. It's been a little bit over a month now that you've joined the show on FM radio. Mm-hmm. You had your own podcast, which you put through BitChute and YouTube.
Yeah.
What's it been like being on terrestrial radio? Have you gotten any good feedback? What's that been like for you?
I've been getting, a couple of more friend requests than I usually get, but I've been kind of laying off the other podcast that I had because you've been keeping me so busy with this.
well, I appreciate that, man. And also, before we get into the heavy stories, we know that we're having Matt Moneymaker on the 16th.
Yeah.
And he's from Finding Bigfoot, and he's got a new show coming out. And on that same show, we're having Dr. Zuni Jasser. So it's a really big show. But
right.
Finding Bigfoot finally ended on Sunday, which was kind of a weird dynamic because me and you are big Sasquatch enthusiasts.
Yeah.
And Finding Bigfoot kind of became this show that everyone identifies with the Sasquatch phenomenon. Like, when you talk about Sasquatch, you talk about that show. You identify with that show. And the previous year, there were no shows, and then they finally said, well, we're going to end it. This is the 100th episode. What did you think of all that? Did you enjoy it?
I thought that was one of the best ones. I really liked the Patterson Gimlin film update, where they combined all the films together into like one high-resolution image of the female Sasquatch.
Yeah, that was cool.
Which, to me, that's the beginning of it all right there for me, because that proves that Sasquatch existed, at least in 1967 it existed.
Well, that's what's going to be good about Matt's new show, and we'll be talking to him when he comes on, is this is really going to be a show that's going to go more into the Native American aspect of local Native Americans
right.
In North America that have been reporting on Sasquatch, way before 1967.
Right. Exactly.
This is going back to
Teddy Roosevelt had a sighting of Sasquatch, or not I don't know if it was a sighting or more of he heard a bipedal creature stomping around his camp. Something to that effect.
He heard that, and somebody that he knew had shot one.
Yeah.
So that's the story behind Teddy Roosevelt. So, okay, enough with Bigfoot, because that's not what our listeners are here to listen to.
Yeah, because I'm sure like half of them are about ready to turn it off.
Yeah, but anyway, let's get into the New York Post.
Okay.
So on today's cover of the New York Post is pictured Kim Kardashian, who's everybody knows is the wife of Kanye West, who had recently put out his support of President Trump.
Yep.
And she had a meeting with President Trump over prison reform.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the reason she was there, was to get in the ear of the president to pardon this woman that's been in jail for many, many years for a low felony crime.
Right.
And she's trying to get this woman pardoned. So, of course, she takes a picture with the president in the Oval Office, as anyone that meets the president is going to do.
Oh, yeah. You gotta.
You have to. And it doesn't matter if it's President Trump or President Obama or President Roosevelt, or, you go down the list, you're going to take a picture with the president.
I got a picture with me with the president before he was president.
Yes.
When he was still running. But
yes.
A really fuzzy picture, but I got it.
I've seen a lot of those. It's kind of a Sasquatch.
Yeah, I had a sighting of Donald Trump.
He's real.
Yeah.
But anyway, the New York Post, which you even commented on our social media that wow, it's unlike the New York Post to do this. They kind of lean right a lot of the times.
Yeah.
But they go out and they put on the cover another big ass summit, which was, ridiculous. And then they say Trump meeting rump. And the other one I think was Kim Thong Un.
Yeah.
And I'm just,
that's so
what
stupid.
bothers me, it's stupid.
They're
it's
trying
childish.
they're trying to be funny, and it's not.
Well, they're trying to be funny, but at the same time, if she had been pictured with Barack Obama, this wouldn't have happened. They wouldn't have put it on the cover. They wouldn't have said, Obama with his big butt bootylicious, because if they were going to do that, there were plenty of opportunities, believe me, because Barack Obama met with Beyonce, who has a luscious figure as well.
Yeah.
And her husband, Jay-Z, many times. They even went and had pictures in the Situation Room together. They never put out a cover photo of that with President Obama and Beyonce. So immediately when Kim Kardashian takes a picture with the president, they take shots at her, and I have to think it's because it's President Trump. Even though they lean right, they feel that they can get away with it because it's him.
Yeah.
And it's kind of in fashion right now to take shots at the president or anybody around him.
Yeah, even conservative New York Post thinks it's okay to take pot shots at Trump. It's so disrespectful. The amount of disrespect that he has to endure every day is phenomenal. And the fact that he just gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning with a smile on his face and just takes on every day with like gusto, He has so much energy, and he's still pulling off a lot of victories, as far as I know. As far as I can see. But he's taking these slings and arrows for us, man.
Well, but and the thing about it though, to me, is why isn't there more outrage about this? Because to me, it's very sexist.
Totally sexist. Totally.
It's body shaming when you're saying the big ass summit and Trump meets the rump. I mean, come on, and it's just, why isn't there more outrage about this? I haven't heard anybody talk about this so far.
Everybody makes fun of Kim Kardashian anyway, because she's really the only reason she has her fame is because of her looks and her famous dad.
Yeah.
Other than that, what has she offered the planet?
Well, but it's not fair. She's there for a reason. It was there for prison reform, which I don't think is a, that's not a.
Yeah, you're right.
That's not a high mark for people like me and you or
exactly.
Any of Trump supporters.
The one time when she's trying to do something positive for the world, she gets made fun of in very sexist, demeaning ways.
The point is they could have put something else on the cover.
Yeah.
They didn't even have to put that on the cover. They just wanted. I think it's another way to embarrass the president, to say, "Oh, look at the president. He's with Kim Kardashian. Isn't this funny? Because he's the And you know what they wrote on the cover of it? Reality star meets reality president. So again, they're going after the fact that he was on The Apprentice, that he's famous. That he was someone in the public eye before he was the president, which is not the first time we had Ronald Reagan.
As if that was his only claim to fame. Meanwhile, this guy has been successful in every avenue that he has pursued. He took on real estate, kicked butt, made billions of dollars, and then he went into television. #1 show for I don't know how many, over a decade. #1, who does that and is successful? Never been involved in politics in his entire life. He runs for the first time in his life for office and is for president, and he freaking wins decisively. This guy is a winner. So to demean him and say he's a reality star and that's his only claim to fame is such bullshit.
Well, that's what they did. That's exactly what they did. Now, I want to get into another topic, but it kind of ties into the first topic. We had Samantha Bee, and I don't know if you know who she is. She's got the TBS show, very unfunny cunt herself. She went on an attack on Ivanka Trump, and she called her a feckless cunt and said that she should stand up because her father is ripping undocumented minors away from their families.
Oh, yeah, right.
You know, this is during the same week that everybody went up in arms over what Roseanne said, and I've said it before. I don't approve of what Roseanne said. I think she should have known that there was a target on her chest, and it probably wasn't the smartest thing to do. We've got this in clear view on the same week. We don't have to go back to what Joy Behar said. We don't have to go back to Bill Maher using the N-word on his show. We don't have to go back, because during the same week, this piece of trash calls President Trump's daughter a feckless cunt, and the word cunt is equivalent to the N-word when it comes to females. I mean, if you call a woman a cunt, that is beyond.
Women hate that. They don't want to hear that word in the first place. It's really crass. I don't even use that word, and I curse like a blue streak.
No, and you shouldn't. And when I was watching Fox News, and it was Neil Cavuto, and he had one of the liberals on, and she said, "Well, it's a woman calling a woman the C word, so it's okay." That's the mentality that they have. The same. It's the same thing as when a black person calls, when they call Ben Carson a coon.
No, it's a liberal woman calling a conservative woman a cunt, and so that's the reason why it's okay.
Right. Now, what do you think would happen if somebody, a comedian, a woman comedian, came out and called Ben Carson, said that Ben Carson looked like a cross between the Planet of the Apes and a Republican, and it was a liberal? You think their show would be canceled? Probably not.
No, they would apologize, and then everything would be fine, just like always. But go ahead.
Well, when did this double standard happen? Because I can't really I can't pinpoint it, because I'm younger than you.
Yeah.
But I feel like it wasn't like this back in the 90s. Like, if you said something, you got canned. Now it's like, as long as you lean the right way politically and you're against Trump, it's all good.
Well, here's my take on all of that, all the standard stuff, and this social norms, quote unquote stuff, is that there are no standards. Everybody in our society has Stockholm syndrome. It's like the frog that was thrown in the warm water, and you heat it up little by little until it's boiling, and the frog doesn't jump out. But if you take that frog and you throw it in boiling water, he'll just jump right out. But you heat it up slowly, the frog will cook and will never jump out. That's what our society has become, with these unwritten laws that are enforced by liberals against their political enemies.
Yeah.
I mean, who makes these standards? Who says you can't call anybody who's black an ape when they call conservative white people knuckle-dragging Neanderthals all the time? Is that not an ape? A knuckle-dragging Neanderthal? That's an ape.
Well, that's what I'm getting at here. Well, Neanderthal was I guess it had ape-like features. I think it was more hominid.
It was
humanoid. Humanoid, rather.
It was a primate that wasn't human. So that to me is the ape category.
It keeps going back to Bigfoot. But here's what I think. I think the media makes the rules up, right? I mean, I guess, Washington feeds the media the rules, and the media enforces them. That's what it feels like to me.
Well, I read this book. You remember 1984, Orwell's 1984, and there was a line in there where he said, writing in this diary is not illegal. In fact, nothing is illegal. But if I get caught, I could be put to death, or at least thrown into a really bad work camp for the rest of my life. Right. And there are no laws. And in Oceania, which is featured in that book, it's sort of like we're heading down that road with these unwritten laws, and they make up these fake standards which don't apply to them. They only apply to conservatives who they want to abuse. You know what I mean? I don't think Roseanne even knew that Valerie Jarrett's dad was black. I didn't know, and I had the same thought. I saw a picture of Valerie Jarrett years ago. I said, man, she looks like Zero from Planet of the Apes. And I didn't know that was a racist comment because I didn't even know she was black.
Yeah, but the issue is that you just, Roseanne, here's my issue with the whole thing with Roseanne. She knows that she's a Trump supporter. She knows she's already got a target on her. Yeah. So you just, unfortunately, you have to be better than all that. And maybe and maybe it's not fair. And you know what, though? We as conservatives, we are better than them. So there is a standard that we set for ourselves, not them. Screw what they think. I don't care what they think.
Yeah.
But the problem is that she set herself up to fail when she put that tweet out. And I don't know what she was doing up at 2 a.m. tweeting anyway, CV.
I thought it was
nothing good can come out of that.
I got it. I thought it was funny, and if everything was, if everything else was equal, I thought it was funny. And I didn't think it was racist. But she picked the wrong target. Everybody knows that Valerie Jarrett is the queen of the deep state, and Obama is the king of the deep state. Michelle is just, she doesn't even count. But, Valerie Jarrett is like the brains of the outfit.
Yeah, and you can't do it, or they're going to take you down if you do.
Socialists love to take orders. They like to set up a queen bee in their nest that anything that they say, they'll do. If the queen says jump, they don't ask how high, they just jump. And to smear Valerie Jarrett when you have so many jobs on the line. I mean, I think there's 200 people who work on her show who are now unemployed.
Right.
You just know that they're looking for any excuse. And Valerie Jarrett, it's come out recently through various sources. I've heard it. Mark Simone talking about it this morning on his show, that Valerie Jarrett called ABC, the Obamas called ABC. They're all demanding her to be fired. And of course, like good little socialists, they just jump. They don't ask why. You're fired.
Roseanne, though, in all defense of the firing, and I'm not defending it, but she knew she worked for ABC. She knows ABC's owned by Disney.
Yeah.
She knows Disney's owned by Eisner. She knows Eisner is a big part of the Democrat globalist movement in the United States of America. So you got to expect that. And here's the thing that lost the most for me. I was actually really enjoying Roseanne.
I know, me too. I like it.
I was watching it, and you know what? There were some good takeaway moments for me. There was an episode where her neighbor was a Muslim, and at the end, she learns in a way that, you know what, these people aren't bad. These people aren't terrorists that are living by me. They're just like us. And there was a takeaway from that. Now, whether I really approve of that messaging or not is another issue. But I think the show was very diverse. She had a transgender grandson.
Yeah, almost to a fault.
She had a black grandchild.
Yeah.
She had a son that was a war veteran. I mean, there were so many different avenues of different walks of life that were in that one show. It was not a conservative, only pro-Trump show. It gave all different ideas. Her sister on the show was a big Hillary supporter.
Yeah.
And I thought that storyline was great because, you know what, CV, a lot of us, and you know it yourself, we deal with family members that don't get along with us, don't talk to us because of our support for the president. And it showed her and her sister working through that and getting through it and actually being bigger people and saying, you know what, we're family. That's bigger than all this stuff. And I thought the show was great. I really thought it was playing a good part, and I thought it had good values to it. It's too bad.
But like everything else the mainstream media does, this was just another kick in the balls to Trump supporters. And that's what it felt like to me, because I was hurt by it. Because I was disappointed. And
well, I think, I agree with you. I think it would have been taken off anyway, just like Tim Allen's show, which is coming back, Last Man Standing.
Yeah, that's good.
But I think she opened the door and made it really easy.
Yeah.
Because they did re-sign the show. They were going to do 2 more seasons of it at the very least.
Oh, they would have went on and on and on as long as they got those numbers.
Those numbers were great.
Insane.
They were insane. Nicholas Cruz.
Okay.
We're going to get into Nicholas Cruz. He released a video. I'm sorry. The media finally got a hold of the videos that the authorities
If he released it himself, that would be amazing right there.
No, I'm saying you got it. See, this is the good part, because this isn't on the FM dial, so I can screw up like that and not feel bad about it.
Well, if you want me to cut that part out, I might.
No, that's okay. But
No,
listen,
no.
They released these videos where it was Nicholas Cruz, and it was very dark. It was very, I guess, sad and pathetic in a way to hear the way he was talking. He was saying, "I'm a loner. I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna wipe everyone out. They're gonna pay with their blood at the hands of my AR."
Pay for what? Did he say?
Listen. He was basically saying that he was in the video. You kind of get the idea that he was bullied. Okay, when you listen to the whole thing, that's what I got out of it. He doesn't sound like a bright kid. I heard a lot of people say, "Oh, he was this genius." He's not. I mean, I listened to this kid talk and spew his nonsense. But the media releases it. It immediately makes gun owners look bad, because he talks about the AR. Your blood will be spilled at the hands of my AR, and of course they're more than willing to release that, right?
Yeah.
But the issue is the media, and the issue is these companies out there that are promoting violence without the gun. Because there is a company overseas, of course, that came up with a first-person shooter game, and it's called Active Shooter. And it was going to be released in the United States. And it was a game where you could actually pick the school in the town and state that you wanted to go into, and shoot students and teachers. And I watched videos of this game, which are out there. You can't get the game because they canceled the release of it because of outrage.
All right.
But here's this first-person shooter game, CV, that's promoting the idea of committing a mass shooting at a school. Don't we have to start looking at this stuff more than the gun?
Well, it was released in other countries, you said?
It's an overseas company. As far as I know, it has not been released yet. It's not going to be released in the United States. Whether it's released over there or not, I don't know.
Well,
that I can't tell you.
The four cops who stood down during that whole shooting and didn't run towards the gunfire, perhaps they should have played some kind of preparation game to prepare them. Let's go find the active shooter. Let's run into the building in the safety of a video game. But these cops were such cowards. I mean, I can't even believe it.
No, it's getting worse with the release of all the information we have about these police officers, and I don't know if you saw that Sheriff Israel's son was actually a bully, and there was an instance where him and one of his friends cornered a much smaller kid, and they kicked him in his genitals, and then they took a broom and put it basically up his ass.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Through his jeans, and they investigated it, but Sheriff Israel swept it under the rug. And this was on the Daily Wire through Ben Shapiro, so it is not a bullshit story. That
reminds me of an incident a couple of decades ago where the cops abused this black guy, and
Amadou Diallo.
Man, you have a memory like an elephant.
Well, that's why I'm a Republican. But not proud to say that lately. But, the point that I'm going back to with this video game is the issue is that, all these anti-gun groups out there, you don't hear a peep from them. You don't hear anything. They're not outraged about this. They weren't the groups that complained about this game. The groups that complained about it were the pro-gun, Second Amendment loving Americans.
Oh, I see. Now it's clear. They're trying to promote gun shootings. They're willing to sacrifice children for the sake of controlling the rest of us by telling
Well,
us,
that's kind of what I think about it. I mean,
yeah,
you know, if the gun rights groups knew about it, why didn't the anti-gun groups know about it? They did, but they just didn't say anything because it didn't fit their narrative.
yeah,
Because if you admit that something like that can create gun violence, then you're basically saying it's not the gun.
there's a lot of psych ops going on, especially on the other side, the left side. I mean, they are psychologically abusive people. They really are.
Absolutely.
They are such bullies, and I just can't get over the fact that Donald Trump is surrounded 360 degrees with enemies from every quarter. You got some of them that claim to be Republicans who are against him. You got all the Democrats who walk in lockstep. They stick together like a beehive.
That's why I hate, you know, it was like I was listening to the station today, and there was a Connecticut Republican that was on, and I was just like, man, this guy sucks. Like, he's not even a Republican.
Yeah,
Like, you're a Democrat.
absolutely.
And you know, I understand the argument. Well, that this is Connecticut, this isn't Texas. You know, we're not going to get Ted Cruz, and we're not going to get Rand Paul. But I mean, my God, these people are like,
I don't
they're
buy that argument.
covert in the way that they operate. It's bad.
I don't care what state or what district. I don't care how blue it is. Truth is truth. Truth doesn't know right or left. Truth doesn't know Republican or Democrat. If you take a common sense approach to any problem, you're going to be labeled a conservative.
Right. Yeah.
And
exactly.
so you know, to say that, oh well, you know, it's different in Connecticut because the right in Connecticut is like the far left in Texas. I mean, what? So what? You know, you had Romney, who didn't win nearly as many districts and counties as Trump did. You know,
I think the issue for me is, you know, years ago I used to identify just basically as a free thinker.
yeah,
And I didn't really call myself a conservative until I finally said, you know what? Screw it. Everybody else says it. I'm a right-wing conservative. Fine. I embraced it. And I guess it is who I am, because that's where I align with values. Is that the values on the right are where I align myself.
Yeah.
It just is what it is.
Well, there's two kinds of conservative avenues that kind of get mixed up in the conversation. There's like the social conservative, who you know, says, you know, how do I say that, you know, it's a sin to be homosexual and things like that. You know,
Right.
Don't smoke marijuana ever because it'll lead to something else, and which it probably will. I'm more of a libertarian in the social respect, so I'm not like a true conservative in that area. But
I agree with you. I don't care what you do in your. I mean, for God's sakes, on Freedom on Deck, we have gay conservatives on all the time.
Exactly, I know.
So and you know what? Their messaging is powerful, and we need it.
But when it comes to being a staunch patriot who is concerned with national security and maintaining our borders, because without borders we don't have a nation, and cutting taxes and regulations and giving the individual more freedom and more choices, that's where I'm the most conservative.
Well, I think we've moved in that direction, and I do think that the conservative movement has gone in that direction. I think that's why we have President Trump right now.
Yeah.
I mean, look at President Trump. He's dealt with everyone. He's employed every type of nationality. He's worked with gay people. You know, he's worked with conservatives, liberals.
Yeah.
He's worked with everyone and in between. So, you know, now that we have a movement where we have folks like Milo Yiannopoulos on board, and Dinesh D'Souza, and you look at all the great black men and women that are conservatives right now that get trashed and tarnished by the left, I think that we have moved forward, and I think we always were ahead of the Democrats when it came to social justice, because their type of social justice is only if it's okay with them.
Yeah.
And I think that we're better than them, to be honest with you.
Well,
so listen,
we're starting to win in certain areas, so we should take strength from that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Before we get going, we got the show coming up on Sunday, and we're going to be talking about this with Tommy Robinson getting jailed over in Britain for reporting on Muslim grooming.
Oh, that whole story made me sick to my stomach. Still does.
And there's a media blackout over there too. It's Orwellian to say the least.
Well, I think they just lifted the ban on reporting about Tommy Robinson yesterday or the day before yesterday. But for like 4 days after the incident, they weren't even allowed to report on it. No journalist, no news organization was allowed to even mention Tommy Robinson. And I know
it was just because of social media that it was actually talked about. And
he was literally plucked off the street and disappeared, just like this Gestapo.
Well, I wanted to ask you, how far do you think that is from? How far away are we from that?
Well, that's the scary part, right? Because whatever happens there eventually starts to happen here, and that's what Barack Obama was all about. Bringing that European type of socialism here. Don't get me started with him right now. I mean, I almost went off on a tangent. I want to try to focus a little bit. But what they did was so egregious. The guy was just reporting on a trial that had already concluded.
He had already gone through.
It was already concluded. They were already guilty. They were just facing sentencing. So there was no way he was going to be able to sway the jury or anything. They just were mad because he had like about 10,000 people listening to him over the phone. This little piece of technology that we're using right now, 10,000 people, and he was like, "Look at these Muslims! They're raping children." He's telling the truth, basically.
Right.
And they couldn't take it, and they were jealous. And he had a big audience.
It's the same thing. Well, not the same thing because they couldn't jail him, but they would have if they could have. It's what they did to Michael Savage back in 2005.
Yeah, they wouldn't let him. They banned him.
Banned him in Britain.
They banned Lauren Southern just recently.
Yes.
And the first thing they did, they were taking him away into the paddy wagon. He's like, "What did I do? What did I do?" He's like, "Disturbing the peace." I'm like, "How am I disturbing the peace? There's nobody out here but me." And the first thing they did was they grabbed his phone away from him. It's like, "Give us that phone! Give us that phone!" Ripped it out of his hand, and they pushed him into the paddy wagon, where he was sentenced within 5 hours to 13 months in jail without even an attorney. He was just like thrown right into the slammer directly. That is not jurisprudence that I know of.
No, it's not, man. Well, listen, we're going to get into it more on Sunday. I think that wraps it up for F.O.D. Short. This is the first time that we did it. Well, all right, everybody. Thank you for listening to the first podcast of F.O.D. Shorts. And make sure that you listen to us this Sunday, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk on your FM dial. If you're listening in Connecticut, Long Island, or Rhode Island, you can catch us right on the FM dial. If not, you can go to 949newsnow.com and you can get the app and you can listen to us that way. Or you can go to TuneIn Radio. And on TuneIn Radio, you can listen to us there. You can also go to our Facebook page, like it, go to our Twitter, follow, and there you can get to the link for TuneIn and both 94.9 and listen to us that way.
Right.
If not,
all the links will be on the bottom of this video.
And the links will be in the bottom of the video, and you can also check us out after the show on BitChute on our channel, or you can listen to us on YouTube on our channel. And please subscribe. Please like our pages. Please follow. It means a lot to us. We're being shadow banned, and we need all the help that we can get to push this movement forward. But this weekend on Sunday, CV, at 3, we're going to have a great show. We've got Gabrielle Boucher coming by. She's from the Millennial Solution. She's a contributor to FoxNews.com. She's a contributor to The Hill, and she's also a contributor to the Daily Caller. So she's big league, man. And what we're going to be talking to her about is Hillary Clinton promulgating the idea that women only voted for Trump because their husbands told them to do that. Kind of an old story, but we'll make it a new story. And we're also having Jason Brandmont. He's a corrections officer in Los Angeles that was involved in a big story that was featured in the New York Times where some prisoners had been abused. He says that he was falsely accused. He's pushed forward with this message. He's been featured on the Reactionary Times. He's been featured on Breitbart as saying that this was basically a political hit job against him. And I think that's going to be an interesting story. So everybody, please listen. CV, it was a great show. Everybody out there that listens to Freedom on Deck, thank you so very much and have an awesome day.
Cheers.